Hello and welcome to Fintech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Today on the show, I have Shalicia Harris, founder and CEO of InCharge. InCharge is a sales enablement and engagement platform for advisors to help drive better engagement and experience. And with that, here's my interview with Shalicia. Shalicia, thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you, Jason.
So Shalicia Harris of InCharge, tell us about InCharge.
Yeah, InCharge is a platform that really here is to help advisors be in charge of the growth around their business. And how can they also help their clients feel in charge at the same time while we really help mend relationships between advisors and their potential clients?
Excellent. Okay, so let's dive into what that actually means. But first, let's dive into history. How did you start this company or what led to its genesis?
Yeah, there are a few iterations of InCharge actually, but it really goes back to my experience when I was looking for advice from a financial advisor. And the process seemed really outdated and a little bit archaic for a millennial like myself. I was doing great in my career. And the first place I decided to go was a bank. That's one of the areas that I felt was a trusted place to go. And I get really good advice because they also had all of my money as well. But I sat in that room and I was interrogated for some basic data for the results at the end to be pretty blah, which was, would you like another line of credit? And I just simply stared at the advisor going, well, I have a line of credit. I have a lot of money that I'm not necessarily using on a regular basis. And I'm here to help you, to have you help me optimize it. And that just was sort of the beginning of it.
So horrible experience at the bank, common refrain in my world.
Yeah.
So basically you saw that problem. What did you think the solution was?
The solution I thought was one, I had to step back and realize once I was given the potential solution to my problem, to the problem the advisor, I guess, ultimately determined that I have in some capacity, I realized that I knew that wasn't the right solution for me and what I wanted my money and how I wanted my money to work for me. And so I needed to build my own personalized financial literacy. And that's something I just simply didn't have as a millennial. I had my bachelor's degree at the time. I was working in strategy for multi-million-dollar companies. I was running $100 million project at my company at that time. But when it comes to personal finance, it just was not there for me. I didn't have the literacy and what my opportunities really were. And that's where I really kickstarted on how advisors can really help their clients build confidence in their own financial literacy. So when they come to these meetings, they can actually participate and have a voice in that meeting as well.
Excellent. All right. So, that's what your goal was. Tell me about how you went about achieving that digitally.
Yeah. So digitally, what I did, I tested it with a few advisors. Some of them didn't quite like that. I went around pretending, to be a potential client of some advisors, going through their process, and realized that education was a key thing that a lot of advisors were including in their prospecting calls. But it was really overwhelming for someone to really digest a lot of this generic information that they could probably get off of Google themselves. And where I saw the real opportunity was, what if an advisor was able to send me an input? I put some details in and I actually got something that was meaningful to me and that was specialized to me. And that's where InCharge is really focused on in that prospecting journey, in that relationship building process with advisors and their potential clients. How can you educate the client at the same time while doing things like collecting your KYC data in a really, really easy way instead of having to interrogate the client in that prospect and meeting or a future meeting just to get some basic information.
Excellent. All right. So that was how you went about it. Tell me about the approach, right? Like basically take me step by step. What's the experience? All right. I'm an advisor. I want to collect the information. What is it I'm doing in order to start that? And what is the client seeing on the other end?
Yeah. So the experience for the advisor is quite smooth and it is very automated. And what that looks like for the advisor is once they've let's say an advisor goes to a networking event. We know a lot of advisors go to those events. Specifically, I work more so in the insurance space. So wealth advisors have a slightly different experience in how they sort of approach their clients. And so you meet someone at a networking event, you say, hey, love to chat with you. Let's book a call. Let's go forward in some capacity. And oftentimes, a lot of advisors promise these things, but they never actually follow up. So, what we allow advisors to do is simply come plug and play that information they've gotten from that potential prospect, put them into our system, and tell us a little bit about them and what their interests might be, where you've met them. And then we actually take that information and we completely personalize it to start developing a personalized campaign for that particular individual. And the goal of that is to get that individual to ultimately book a meeting with that financial advisor. And in the process, we're giving them financial literacy. We're giving them the opportunity to build that personalized financial literacy through other tools and engagement along that personalized campaign.
Excellent. Okay. So talk about the various campaigns that you've largely created. Like, how does this look?
So, what that really looks like is because it's all automated, we take really key information. The platform is quite intelligent that takes key information from different aspects of the consumer. In the insurance world, there's also something called a market survey that a lot of insurance and life insurance advisors use. And that is actually a key component of our platform as well. So, any agent that is using a market survey, they can use our market survey, or their firms can have their market surveys customized on our platform. And we take more robust information from there and really create an individual journey for every prospect that goes through that market survey. So that actually creates a much deeper, much more personalized customer journey versus the first version of what we sort of talked about. That's a little bit more high level.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, all right. Basically, you've been doing this for a little while now. You got basically created these journeys. What's the end kind of takeaway that you think that what you're trying to create with clients altogether?
I'm creating transparency.
Mm.
That's the biggest thing. Transparency is huge and education is huge. We're living in an age where the majority of consumers have some sort of high school, college, university degree, and even master's degrees are quite high at this time. Like everyone walking around basically has an MBA. So if education is so important in all of these other realms of society, that's why we see people always Googling, searching for information. But often that doesn't come in a really, I would say, palatable way from advisors in a lot of ways. So when an advisor is often given information, clients often feel like they're being talked at versus they're being given information to be consumed. And that's the sort of transparency we're trying to create, but we're also looking to eliminate those negative feelings that show up in these client advisor experiences.
Excellent. So, and now talk to me about what you're seeing in terms of feedback. So, clients who've been through this is not new. So,
Yeah.
what's the feedback you're getting from them altogether?
So from clients, it's always a aha moment. They never really see their information sort of portrayed in the way that we portray it, but it really makes them think about what is truly important to me. And often we get feedback from clients and advisors at the same time. So after a meeting occurs, we'll send out requests for feedback from those meetings specifically. And what clients are saying is that this made me trust my advisor a little bit more because they felt that they weren't hiding things and they didn't feel like they had all the cards in the advisor's hand and they had to blindly trust them. So it comes back to this fundamental component of trust, which is really the foundation of this industry. Like money is uncomfortable. Talking about money is something that's often seen as taboo in a lot of cultures, in a lot of places. So when you can really break that gap and have a glass wall where everyone can see what we're all working off of together, that puts a client in a position where they become more confident and they're actually able to make faster decisions because that transparency itself becomes a part of that trust foundation.
Excellent. All right. And how about on the advisor side? What are they saying? What's the feedback you're getting there altogether?
So we actually work with mostly pretty new advisors. And the feedback is really, really incredible from them because coming into the industry and being new, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of compliance. There's a lot of these other things that advisors have to kind of get in and settle in with. But when they're able to collect a lot of that KYC data up front, they're actually able to sit down, strategize a little bit to really understand what might be a really potent problem for this customer. And we actually ask these customers for their goals and some of the things they're concerned about and what's coming up in the future. So that allows the advisor to sit down and really understand that person's finances from a bird's eye view. So when they go in with context, and the client also goes in with context. And what we're actually seeing is as high as a 75% conversion for clients coming through this process with that knowledge, with their personalized financial literacy. And instead of going through something else and going through, just a standard agenda that an advisor might have, the advisor walks the client through where that person is today. And then the goals about the future become so much more refined, so much more clear, and they can now get on the same page as what that next step should be.
Excellent. And I would say that, the conversion rate is spectacular. But then again, frankly, anything where you commit people to a journey and a bunch of work ahead of time, I think you're more likely setting yourself up for actual closing. Because they've invested the time, the effort, and they feel there's value. They're more likely to say, okay, let's move to the next step. But I think but you're doing it in a way that's educational. You're doing it in a way that's actually bringing them value and engaging. So that makes a lot of sense to me. All right. So, okay. So basically that's what happens there. So, I think, let's take a step back. Let's get to the crux. You mentioned some of the goals. You mentioned goals. You mentioned some of the stuff you're doing, but let's talk about how long is the average engagement as part of this program take? And basically let's get more specific about what it is you're asking about and how it is you're educating them along. Give me a kind of cardinal example of here's what we're trying to achieve. And here's what we're trying to capture. How are you tying those all together to make them engaging?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the big things that we know that consumers want today is comprehensive solutions. And what we've created is called 5 key pillars of personal finances that covers debt, housing, investment, financial resilience, which also covers insurance and savings. And we also look at creditworthiness because that's truly your buying power in today's world. And we allow the consumers to go through an assessment that only takes about 3 to 5 minutes. And on the 5-minute end, that's when we're collecting information about a couple. So we'll collect individual information just to make sure that we truly understand who is bringing what to the party. And with that, we break down their finances into these 5 different areas to help them understand what can they actually achieve within all of those. And we also provide insights to the consumer to say, talk to your advisor about a solution around this, because you might be experiencing this challenge. When we take a bird's eye view at their report, we suggest really key questions that the client can also prep because they might not know what to ask. It's a journey that they've probably never been on before, or they just simply don't know how to navigate it, like myself. And one thing we know happening in the future is up to 500,000 new people coming into Canada. And I think it's almost 80% of Canada's growth over the next few years is going to come from immigrants. So they come from completely different financial systems that is very different from ours today. And we simply help take people through all of those processes and help them understand what does that mean here in Canada. That allows the advisor to work with them a lot closer and a lot faster.
Excellent. So you're doing that. Do you have any metrics on kind of essentially how much this has led to? You have conversion metrics. I'm curious if there's any revenue metrics that advisors have shared with you.
At this time, we don't have any direct revenue metrics. That's something I'm gathering right now from some of our key advisors. We have a few offices that we work with very, very closely. So that is what we're looking at. But in the beginning, as I mentioned earlier, we work with a lot of new advisors. So often we don't have a lot of data from where they started to where they are right now. So it does take a little bit more time to, one, get them ramped up, get them into a process that works consistently, and be able to track that and understand how we're really going to put metrics out there that make sense from someone that's net new in the business. But one of the big things we're looking to track within our platform, and our platform really enables, is how can we optimize new advisors in the industry versus their existing training and how they become successful within this industry as well too. So that is something we're looking to really tackle is the longevity of advisors. If we can make them more successful earlier on, we hope to see that there is more longevity in the industry because within life insurance per se, the turnover rate for advisor is quite high, so 80 to 90% annually. And that's pretty daunting for any firm to have to replace individuals so rapidly.
Fair enough. So, okay, that's where you have the platform today. Where do you see it going? How do you want to continue to build it up?
Yeah, I definitely see it evolving into the space of really continuing to be education forward and engagement forward and really diving into how can we as financial services really segment and deliver value to consumers at the right point in time. And that's something we're really working on right now from a segmentation standpoint to helping advisors truly build their business and understand what their business is about, because a lot of them don't tend to have a really strong niche or anything like that. So how can we really help them identify who is the client that truly resonates with you and the solutions that you provide and the type of service that you provide and help them do that. And that's where we're really looking into getting into really deep analytics from a business perspective, but also from a marketing perspective.
Makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
So before we wrap up, there's 3 questions I'd like to ask everybody on a positive note.
Yeah.
The first one is if you had one wish for something you could change in your company or the industry as a whole, what would it be?
I would love to make this industry more accessible to everyone and eliminate the fear around accessing financial advice.
Excellent. Well, I'm with you on that. Second question is what's been the biggest challenge in the company to where it is today?
I would say change management. The world of financial advice is, really tied heavily to compliance. And often that is a deterrent for change because people don't often understand what these compliance rules are. And so that often impacts their ability to make a move on the needle, to make some change within their business. So the willingness to change is quite low, I find, in the industry overall. But we are seeing some movers and shakers that are really looking to propel how we bring digital into the space. We're looking at AI components as well, too. We know that's the future. We know a lot of process and automation is the future as well, too. So how do we help bring that to advisors? But there's a big knowledge gap on what technology can truly do for advisors and how can advisors truly embrace this and build our businesses.
Excellent. All right. And the last question I have is what excites you the most about what it is you're working on and keeps you getting up in the morning to fight the good fight?
I think the feedback from the advisors and the clients and knowing that the clients feel really empowered. And that's the position I came from when I stepped into this industry is really no empowerment, really no lack of control of my finances or knowledge or being able to be an educated consumer. And that is what wakes me up every day because I hear my friends talk about it. I hear other people talk about it when I do financial literacy workshops and different activities like that. So to see that movement forward with people leveraging our platform, that makes me very, very excited to keep going.
Excellent. Shalicia, thank you so much for taking the time today. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
So that was my conversation with Shalicia Harris of InCharge. If you're in the Canadian financial advisor space and you're looking for a better way to engage people at the start of your relationship and hopefully convert more of them, check out InCharge. As always, if you enjoy this podcast, please review on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, wherever you see your podcast. And until next time, take care.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at jasonpereira.ca.